PPSR is an acronym that stands for Personal Property Securities Register. Now, this is an old system that has been around for a really long time, but in 2012, it was migrated across to a new Commonwealth-based system. If you think of PPSR being like a bit of an online notice board for debts and obligations secured by personal property. Now, there's two key, definitions or names that pop up in PPSR all the time, and people often get confused about what reference or what term means something. So a secured party is the entity or individual lodging the PPSR registration. And the grantor, which is the other name you'll see on a PPSR report, is the entity or individual which the PPSR registration has been placed against. There are three asset classes to understand in PPSR. It says there on the slides, motor vehicle, other goods, and all-PAP. For all cranes, just about mobile cranes anyway, it'll be identified as a motor vehicle. Something like a tower crane and or like a Maida crane, that is identified and put under as other goods. Now, an all-PAP, which we'll spend some more time on later, is the new terminology for what is commonly known as a fixed and floating charge. There are a couple of subclasses to understand in PPSR. There is intangible property and financial assets that you can lodge. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about when PPSR is required. It's probably one of the most common questions that we receive. So when you finance a crane, the bank places a PPSR registration on your crane. So if we make up an example, if you purchase a Mac 25 and you finance it with CBA, CBA will place a PPSR charge on the identifiers of that crane. Consider it a mortgage on the crane. Just to understand when PPSR is actually enforced, like, when it becomes important. I mean, from a bank perspective, it becomes important if the company defaults or stops paying their loans. PPSR allows them to collect the item and repossess. From a hirer's perspective, if you're hiring out cranes long term, PPSR can also be enforced in the event of default. If your customer ultimately stops paying and there's a reason for you to take the crane, of course it's yours, but PPSR just allows you to reinforce that if it did come down to a legal dispute. But PPSR's most common application, unfortunately, is when it comes to insolvency. How to physically apply a PPSR charge. This is actually where I started my craft in the bank. I was in the PPSR team at the NAB. We used to register, plenty of these every day. It is not a difficult exercise. It does require a little bit of training and understanding of the portal and the system. It's not expensive. It's only $7 to register a charge. I think it was $6. I think it's just gone up to $7. If a PPSR charge is not lodged correctly, as the example that we gave earlier with the trailer, then it doesn't quite become null and void, but it's not the same as having a perfect PPSR charge on your goods. So if you are wanting more help in that, there are firms set up to do it. I did have a suggestion written down in my notes there that when you physically lodge a PPSR charge, my only suggestion to you is if this is going to be a task that you want to keep in-house with your business, my only suggestion is to run, a little bit of a register yourselves about the PPSR charges that you are lodging. They do, if you lodge a 7-year charge, it will dislodge itself normally at the 7-year mark. But let's say that we got 3.5 years into that term and you were requested to release that PPSR charge for whatever reason. You need a token, which is just a code that PPSR give you. So it is very common to lodge a PPSR charge, today and forget about it for 3 years. And then you get 3 years down the track and you need to deregister it and you've forgotten the token. So just a suggestion, having made that mistake many times at the bank, if you create your own kind of inventory of the PPSR charges that you are lodging along with the token, if and when you are ever asked to release that, which would be in the event of a sale, then at least you've got the token there and you can deregister it, no problems. Now, I wanted to take a little dive into all PAPs, which is, we've spoken a little bit about the hire of cranes and hire of equipment and when PPSR may apply. We've spoken about how to lodge it, but an all PAP charge is something to also consider and often not spoken about with PPSR. So all PAP, again, is just an acronym for all present and after acquired property. It is an incredibly powerful charge, which is often registered by a bank and can be incredibly damaging in insolvency situations or hardship situations. So the terminology that I often use with some customers that I speak to is consider the all PAP charge an umbrella over your business. It gives the holder of that all PAP the complete ability and control over cash, debtors, unencumbered equipment, whatever is held within inside your proprietary limited business. Now, as you can imagine, in the event of an insolvency, that's incredibly powerful because the bank has control over all of your moving assets. So it can be important just to understand, A, what an all PAP is, but B, also the controls that it gives the holder of the all PAP. Now, in saying how damaging it is and the controls that it gives, it is also not uncommon. So banks will place an all PAP charge on if it's something like a new business, perhaps, like if they're lending money to a new business and they need some extra security, or potentially if you've got multiple products kind of interlocked with the bank, if you've got some commercial lending, some crane lending, and you might have an overdraft product as an example, it would be pretty common for a bank to have an all PAP charge. But more often than not, it's just important to understand what it is. And if it has been there for a period of time, let's say you're a business at the 15-year mark and the bank may have put it on your business at year 1 just to get the first loan or 2 out of the way, we could mount an argument at year 15 that it doesn't need to be there anymore. So as businesses begin to build equity in their fleet, perhaps it could be a useful exercise to challenge that all PAP if the bank does hold one. So I just thought it was important to bring that up.